I still have the key. The wrong one they gave me at check-in. Rusted brass, jagged teeth, heavier than it should have been. I don't know why I slipped it into my pocket instead of handing it back. Maybe because it felt like something I wasn't supposed to touch. Something meant for someone else. The Redlands sat just off the I-40 outside Amarillo, the kind of place you only stop at when you're too tired to keep driving. A buzzing neon vacancy sign, a cracked parking lot with weeds pushing through the asphalt. Inside, the lobby smelled like damp carpet and stale smoke. The clerk barely looked at us. He slid the key across the counter. Room 114. But when I walked down the hall, the door had no number. Just bare wood where the placard had been ripped off. He swapped it for another room without explanation. That night, at 2:07 a.m., I heard it through the wall. Metal dragging slow across concrete. The sound of chains being pulled across the floor. And if that door was sealed, officially condemned, then who the hell was moving in there? I still keep that key. Not as proof. Not even as a reminder. But because I can't make myself throw it away. And sometimes I wonder if the weight of it is the only reason I ever made it out. This account has been cross-referenced with Potter County inspection logs dated June 14, 2019. Records confirm that several rooms at the Redland Motel, including room 114, were officially marked sealed and unsafe. Certain identifying details have been withheld for privacy and security reasons. We were driving west, trying to save money by skipping the bigger hotels along the interstate. The GPS had pulled us off exit 72, toward a line of motels half hidden behind gas stations and shuttered diners. The Redland was the cheapest one still lit up. The lot looked empty. 2 cars, maybe 3, and the neon vacancy sign hummed like an insect that wouldn't die. Inside, the air was heavy, a mix of cigarette smoke that had sunk into the carpet years ago, and something sour beneath it, like spoiled fruit left in the sun. The vending machine in the corner was unplugged, a Coca-Cola sticker peeling down the side. My girlfriend whispered that the whole place felt abandoned, like we'd walked into a movie set after everyone had left. I laughed it off, but my voice felt small in that silence. We were just tired, I told myself. Just looking for a bed and a locked door. Around midnight, it started to rain. Not a storm, just a sudden, uneven drizzle. Fat drops hitting the metal awning outside our door. For a moment, it was almost calming, like background noise disguising the emptiness of the hall. But when I pulled back the curtain, I saw the parking lot glowing wet under the neon light. The rain slicking over cracked pavement and making it look darker, deeper. We'd bought a couple of gas station sandwiches earlier, the kind wrapped too tight in plastic. Half-eaten, they sat on the nightstand next to us, untouched since we laid down. The room smelled faintly of mustard and damp carpet, a reminder of how temporary we thought this night would be. By the time the rain stopped, the motel was quiet again. Too quiet. I slipped my hand into my pocket, felt the weight of that wrong key still there. I told myself I'd throw it away in the morning, but something told me I wouldn't. It was the sound that woke me. Not the rain, it had already passed, but something heavier, dragging. At first, I thought it was the air conditioner shuddering in the wall, but then it came again, clearer. Metal scraping against concrete. Slow, measured. I checked my phone. 2:07 a.m. exactly. The glow of the screen felt too bright in that room, as if the numbers themselves carried weight. 30 seconds of noise, then silence. Whoever it was, whatever it was, had paused. Listening. I held my breath, waiting for it to start again. When it did, my girlfriend stirred beside me. Her eyes opened just enough to meet mine. I whispered that it was probably pipes or tools left in the room next door. She didn't look convinced. Neither was I. I remembered the inspection file I'd pulled up earlier, Potter County records that listed room 114, our first room, as sealed since 2019. Unsafe flooring. Restricted access. That was the official phrase. 3 other rooms in the same wing carried the same mark. But if the room was condemned, if the lock was supposed to be bolted shut, then why did it sound like someone was dragging chains across its floor at 2:07 in the morning? I pressed my palm flat against the wall, felt a faint vibration tremble into my skin. The scrape came again, longer this time, ending with a sharp clank, like something being hooked into place. In that moment, I knew. There was no renovation happening in there. Something else was. She woke me again just after 3. Said she'd heard the side door slam, the one near the vending machine. I pulled back the curtain, just a fraction, and there it was. Movement under the awning. 2 men, plain clothes, no uniforms, leading someone between them. The figure's hands were bound in front, the glint of metal catching the neon light. Chains, not cuffs. They didn't speak, just kept their heads low, walking fast toward the far corner where the lot opened to the service road. Then, headlights cut through the rain-slick asphalt. A semi idling with its hazards on, parked where guests weren't supposed to. The back door of its trailer swung open, yawning dark. The smell reached me even through the cracked window. Damp metal, rust, oil. The same sour tang I'd caught on that wrong key in my pocket. My thumb hovered over my phone. I searched Amarillo trafficking arrests with trembling hands. Case after case filled the screen. Motels off the I-40 used as holding stops, rooms listed as temporary cages. Behind me, the scrape of chains came again, muffled, but steady, bleeding through the wall like someone being prepared to move. I froze. Half of me wanted to see more, to keep watching. The other half prayed they wouldn't look up, wouldn't notice the curtain shift. My heart was loud enough I swore it would give us away. And in that instant, I realized, if they saw me, we wouldn't be leaving in the morning. I don't know why I did it. Maybe curiosity. Maybe something darker. But I slipped the wrong key out of my pocket and stepped into the hall. The carpet was damp from tracked-in rain, smelling of mildew and rust. Room 114 stood at the end, its door bare where the number should have been. My hand shook as I slid the key in. It turned with almost no resistance. Inside, the air was thick, sour. My phone light swept across the room. Mattress stripped bare, carpet torn up in the middle. In the corner, bolted to the floor, was a length of chain. The metal still glistened, as if it had been used hours ago. I didn't step further. I couldn't. From outside came the crunch of footsteps in gravel, low voices I couldn't make out. Then, a truck door slammed, echoing like a gunshot. My girlfriend hissed my name from down the hall, panic breaking through her whisper. I pulled the key free, pocketed it, and ran. We didn't wait for sunrise. We drove straight through the night, headlights carving across endless plains until Amarillo was just a smear of neon in the rearview mirror. I've kept that key ever since. Not as proof. Not even as a reminder. Just because I can't make myself throw it away. The rust stains my fingers if I hold it too long. And sometimes I wonder if the weight of it is the only reason I ever made it out. Case File 20-F-137, U.S. District Court, Northern District of Texas. Filed October 2020. Human trafficking operations centered on multiple roadside motels along Interstate 40, including one in Potter County. Several rooms were identified as temporary holding locations. Names of cooperating witnesses remain sealed. I still wonder what would have happened if I'd opened that door sooner. Would someone have been inside? Or would I have been the one who never left? I kept the receipt. Not because of the room, I barely slept there, but because of the way it looked when the printer spat it out. No dollar amount, no tax line, not even the motel's name. Just a string of letters and numbers, like something stamped out of a lab. I remember holding it under the lobby's flickering fluorescent light, trying to make sense of it. The clerk didn't say a word, just slid it across the counter with my key. His eyes never even met mine. Later, when I checked the mini fridge in my room, I found bottles with no labels. Sealed, cold, stacked neatly. I twisted one open. The taste was sharp, chemical, nothing like soda. I spat it into the sink, my mouth burning. That was when I looked back at the receipt, at those same numbers repeated like a code. And I realized it wasn't a mistake. The motel hadn't charged me for a room. It had cataloged me. This account has been cross-referenced with FDA seizure records from October 2019. Federal documents confirm the recovery of unlabeled chemical substances stored in multiple roadside motels across Ohio. Certain personal details have been withheld for privacy. I was on the road to Columbus, headed for a trade show, trying to cut costs wherever I could. The Budget Inn sat just off Route 33, past a gas station with half its pumps bagged and an empty diner with the letters peeling off its sign. It had started to drizzle when I pulled in. The kind of rain that comes suddenly and makes the asphalt shine. Drops smacked against the windshield in uneven bursts, then slowed to a mist as I parked under a broken light. The lobby felt more like a storage room. A soda machine unplugged in the corner, the faint buzz of a TV somewhere behind the counter. The clerk didn't bother with small talk. He ran my card, waited for the printer, and handed me the receipt with my key. I glanced down. No room number, no dollar amount. Just a series of codes, letters, and digits strung together in blocks. It didn't look like any motel bill I'd ever seen. I almost asked him about it. But the way he stared past me, like I wasn't even there, made me shove the slip into my pocket and walk away. By the time I got to my room, the drizzle had stopped. The parking lot looked slick and empty under the neon glow, like it had been washed clean. Too clean. And that's when I noticed the fridge humming louder than it should have. I opened the fridge and pulled out one of the bottles. No label, just a clear plastic seal over the cap. The liquid inside was pale, almost cloudy. I told myself it was some off-brand soda they stocked to save money. I twisted it open. The hiss was faint, wrong. I took a sip. The taste hit immediately. Chemical, sharp, bitter like burnt plastic. I gagged, spat it into the sink, and turned the faucet on full blast. My throat burned, and for a moment, I thought I might throw up. I sat on the bed, the bottle still in my hand, watching the condensation drip down the plastic. Then I remembered the slip in my pocket. The receipt. I unfolded it. The codes printed on it weren't random. They repeated. Blocks of letters and numbers that matched the tiny stamps etched onto the caps of the bottles in the fridge. It wasn't a bill. It was a batch record. I searched the codes on my phone, but nothing came up. Just obscure references, scattered mentions in forums I didn't trust. Then, buried deeper, I found a match in a public FDA notice. The same style of code, used to log seized substances in illegal shipments. I wasn't paying for a room. I was part of an inventory, and someone had just logged me in. The chemical taste wouldn't leave my mouth. I swished water over and over, but the burn lingered, metallic and sour at the back of my throat. The hallway outside was silent, lined with identical doors. I stepped out, bottle still in hand, telling myself I'd find the ice machine. Maybe rinse the taste away. But halfway down the hall, I noticed one door wasn't latched. The lock plate hung loose, the frame cracked like it had been forced. I pushed it open. The room was dark, curtains drawn. The same beige carpet, the same humming fridge in the corner. But this one wasn't empty. Inside the fridge, the bottles were identical to mine, cloudy liquid, no labels. But behind them, shoved against the back wall, were vials. Syringes still in plastic wrappers. Tiny glass bottles with faded stamps on the lids. The same codes as my receipt. On the desk, there was something worse. A spiral notebook, open, filled with lists of numbers and names. The last page only had one line, written in shaky pen. Do not drink. The smell hit me then, stronger than anything in my own room. Alcohol, disinfectant, and something sharper, like melted plastic. My stomach turned. I backed away, but the hallway floor creaked behind me. A footstep, then another. I froze. My first thought was to call my wife, just to hear her voice, but my hands shook too much to dial. I pulled the door shut, heart racing, and slipped back toward my own room. My keycard shook in my hand as I slid it through the reader. The fridge inside was still humming, louder than before, as if it knew I'd seen too much. And I realized I wasn't the only thing being kept track of in that place. I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed, the receipt unfolded on my lap, the codes blurring together in the dim light. Every sound in the hallway made me flinch. The creak of pipes, the hum of the vending machine. At 4 a.m., I heard it again. Footsteps outside my door. Slow. Deliberate. They paused, right at the threshold, then moved on. That was enough. I stuffed the receipt back into my pocket, grabbed my bag, and left the key on the dresser. When I reached the lobby, the clerk's chair sat, pushed back, still spinning slightly like he'd just left it. The front door was locked. For a second, my stomach dropped. I shoved the crash bar. Nothing. Behind me, a floorboard creaked. I threw my weight against the door again, harder. This time it gave way, slamming open so hard it banged against the wall. The night air hit me like a slap. I ran to my car, hands trembling so badly, I almost dropped the keys. The engine coughed, stuttered, then finally roared to life. I pulled onto Route 33 without looking back. By the time the sun rose, I was halfway to Columbus. The taste of that drink still clung to my throat, bitter and metallic. I couldn't make it go away. I've kept the receipt ever since. The ink hasn't faded. The codes are still there. I don't know what batch I was supposed to belong to, but I know it was never about a motel room. FDA case record, October 22nd, 2019. Seizure of multiple unlabeled chemical substances stored in roadside motels across Ohio. Records confirm inventory codes, similar to those described here. The use of these substances on guests was never proven. Certain identifying details have been withheld for privacy. Sometimes I wonder if I'd drunk more than a sip, if I'd finished that bottle. Would I have just been another code in their system?